Happy Shane Baz Day to those who celebrate. My name is Brendan Tuma. I will be your host today. I am joined by Dinger Dan Harris on the Monday, September 20th edition of Leading Off. Mr. Dan Harris, we're coming in with some good energy today. How are you?
What is on your face?
These are my Kike Hernandez sunglasses that I got as a giveaway at the Red Sox game this past weekend. We swept the Orioles. We are leading the wild card standings. Myself made it to the championship in 2 fantasy baseball leagues. So this weekend, Dan, it was fantasy baseball nirvana, baseball nirvana. It was a blast this weekend.
I'd like to make it clear that I've made many mistakes since I have been the editor-in-chief of this company. And I think making you host of this podcast when football season started and Joe had to leave is certainly near the top of that list. Nevertheless, I am happy for you. It's very fun to be on a text string with you and Mayor right about now, because Mayor is so pessimistic about the Red Sox and you are so little boy optimistic about the Red Sox. So it's great. I'm glad you had a fantastic weekend. You look ridiculous, but that's okay.
Anytime you can defy the odds and sweep the Orioles at home, there is reasons to be excited. In all seriousness, there are just 2 weeks left in the baseball season. And I don't know, something about this weekend, I started getting a little reflective and thinking back to where we started with all this. And doesn't like March just feel like so long ago at this point?
It does. The baseball season, I don't know about you, Tim. I mean, it's different. The Red Sox are in it. I'm only really heavily involved in one league at this point that has playoffs this week for me, and I'm in the finals, thankfully. But so I always feel like at this point, I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying. It feels like you're ready to get going still. But for me, I'm just like on fumes, trying to finish out the season. And then I cannot wait to dive into next year. Like, that's where I'm at this point, you know?
I understand. I share the excitement for 2022. I'm in the finals in a home league that I've never won, and it would just mean everything to win it. So I definitely feel plugged in coming into this week. And I think the place to start is with Tyler O'Neill, who went 3 for 9 with 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 5 runs this weekend. We've talked about him as a sneaky, really valuable roto player because he's hitting 282 with 28 homers and 13 steals. The strikeout rate is high. It's 32.3%. It's manageable, and it's manageable because everything he hits is so hard. He's in the 96th percentile or better in hard hit rate, barrel rate, and expected WOBA. Tyler O'Neill, is this someone who the strikeout rate scares you too much overall, or is it okay because of the hard hit data?
I mean, if we're talking about rest of season, I'll do whatever I need to survive, which is fine. But overall, obviously, 28 homers, 13 steals. The steals to make up for it. I mean, what he's doing, like, I wouldn't expect him to hit 282. I don't like the guys that strike out a ton, but like, you have guys who get by with this profile, like Javi Baez gets by with this exact same profile, right? And we are all always, although people hate Javi Baez from a fantasy perspective unnecessarily as well. So O'Neill is not a guy who I run after or anything like that, but he is certainly a guy who can help your fantasy team, and you should buy into, given basically, you know, you can live with that strikeout rate if he's going to hit the crap out of the ball every time he touches it, you know?
Exactly. And Go Cards does note that his K rate is falling. The Cardinals have won 8 in a row. They suddenly have a 3-game lead over the second wild card spot. And part of the reason they're surging so much is because they just finished a 3-game sweep of the Padres. But The Padres did get a huge start from Yu Darvish, 6 innings, 7 hits, no runs on Saturday. He had 11 swinging strikes. I personally recommended to sit Darvish for this matchup. I don't feel horrible about it because, like, man, there was just not a lot of reason to be optimistic about him coming into this one.
I think I was on, I don't know if I was specifically on the show where we talked about this next start, but we definitely both agreed. Yeah, it must have been Tuma. His last start, I must have been on that show because I remember us talking about Darvish and we were both like, no, you can't. Now, I started him in our league, Tuma, mainly because I'm pretty much out of it. So I just need bodies anyway. But yeah, good to see. Makes you, happy, obviously. about what you might see next year, and that all hope is not lost. But for now, I don't know, man. Like, if you're still in it and you have Darvish, you can start him, but I don't feel confident. And the Padres have a lot of other problems as well going on in that clubhouse, as Bizza Rizza Jizza is mentioning here.
Yeah, I do think Darvish, in terms of like starting him this week, he gets the Braves. It's a tough decision. And I think it's honestly just to go with your gut, because you can look at the data either way, because he's had some good starts recently, also some terrible ones. But yeah, the Padres are in free fall, it seems. Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis were seen arguing in the dugout this past weekend.
Yep. Yeah, it looked like apparently there was a story this morning from The Athletic that it was a coach and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it didn't seem crazy. They've got all sorts of leadership issues, whatever, and they're not going to make the playoffs now. So we'll deal with it later. And hopefully it helps the Bryce Harper MVP bet. That's all I care about at this point.
It very well could, and probably will. That's a good point, actually.
Yes. We're going Sizzler.
Someone who, this is a terrible transition, but someone who I've heard scouts compare to Bryce Harper in terms of how streaky he can get has been Jared Kelenic.
Who?
This past weekend, he went 5 for 9 with 3 homers, 2 doubles, 3 walks, 7 RBIs against the Royals. On Friday night, he hit 2 homers, becoming the youngest Mariner to do so since A-Rod in 1996. In September, Kelenic has a 998 OPS. I did look at everything else. There's nothing. The K rate is the same as it's always been, basically. The walk rate, the fly ball rate, all that stuff still seems in line. So I think it's just a hot streak for Kelenic. At this point, like I just think this kind of makes him okay. He's not must start. He might be usable this week. He goes from unusable to maybe usable. I still don't, as excited as I am about it, I still don't think he's like a must start for the last 2 weeks.
No, not a must start, but I mean, whatever, man. Like it's week to week at this point. If he does get hot, we know he has the pedigree. This ridiculously poor season doesn't really make sense from everything we know about Kelenic from his minor league track record. So if he's showing signs of life, great. Like, start him. I don't know what his matchups are this week, Tuma, but either way, like, just, yeah, I'm fine to roll with him, even if it's a mini hot streak. His overall numbers now on the month look great because of this. So go ahead, roll with him. See what you can do. Who knows?
He does have 7 games, and I did know because I looked at it. The Mariners faced 2 lefties in the first 3 days, which just gave me a little bit of pause, but yeah, still, he's been hot. All right, some downs from the weekend. It feels like he's been a down every time we've been on and he's pitched, but Hyunjin Ryu, 5 runs in 2 innings against the Twins on Friday. 5 of his past 8 starts have been 4 runs or more. And then he was placed on the IL with a neck strain. So honestly, I kind of view it as now at least you don't have to decide whether or not to start him.
That is exactly correct. I'm going to have a t-shirt made saying I survived Hyunjin Ryu's September because I am still going in a league for the playoffs where I started Ryu both of the last 2 weeks. Yes. And I thought I probably would have had to start. It's a 14-team league. Like the pitching available on the wire is nonsensically deep. Like I don't have anything there. So I probably would have thrown him out there. So this is merciful that you don't have to. And it winds up with a bad season, Tuma, but I think he'll be a value in drafts next year because I have to imagine that he was battling something here towards the end of the year because it wasn't that long ago that he had like a 3 ERA and suddenly it's above 4. Like the end of the season here is just going to, I think, turn some people off. But realistically, I think that he's going to be a value next year in drafts.
That's a good point. Maybe that neck strain has been bothering him for a little longer.
Yeah.
There's kind of a theme of this season, and we've been talking about them between Ryu, Kyle Hendricks, Zach Greinke, who we're about to get to in a sec. But some of these soft tossers, it kind of seemed like the wheels finally fell off after being values year in, year out. Greinke, 4 innings, 5 runs against the Diamondbacks in his past 3 starts. He's given up 18 earned runs in 13 innings. He faces the A's on Friday. I don't see how you can use Greinke this week.
No, I've been off Greinke the whole year. From everything I saw coming in, Greinke was the one who was showing signs of decline. Hendricks was a guy who was just the same old, doesn't strike out a ton of guys, overperforming his peripherals as he has all his entire career. Ryu was fine. Greinke was a guy who I saw real signs of decline coming into the year. And again, he's thrown so many innings in his career. Eventually, the wheels fall off for everybody. So yeah, that finally seemed to have come to fruition so far this year. With Hendricks, man, I mean, it's like all the regression came crashing down at once. And even when like I was still starting him up until 2 weeks ago, and then like he'd be okay for like 3 innings. I'd be like, okay, this is the good Hendricks start, and then it'd be like 4 home runs or something in a row. So yeah, all these guys are, I mean, certainly not for the rest of this year, and even going into next year. Other than Ryu, who I will still be on, I'll probably be out on both Hendricks and Greinke.
The final down that I had from the weekend was just the Jesse Winker situation. He finally returned from his intercostal strain on Friday, only to leave that game and immediately be placed back on the IL. They haven't ruled him out for the season or anything like that, so it's unclear how much time he'll miss, but obviously he can't be relied on, and that just stinks.
Yeah, they. I remember earlier in the year where we were doing a redraft, we were talking about Winker, and this was always something with Winker where I just felt like I can't. I don't know, whatever it is, whether it's injury or something like that. Performance-wise, he's been fantastic, but obviously this stinks that this is going to end that way. Be fascinating to see Tuma where he's going to go next year in drafts.
Yeah, because there will be people who get scared off by the injury history and all that.
Yep.
The biggest news and note to discuss, I think, is the Rays calling up Shane Baz to make his MLB debut tonight versus the Blue Jays. Baz, you can make the case he is the second best pitching prospect in baseball. The Rays have a history of calling up some of their best pitching prospects late in the year as they get set for a playoff push. It happened with David Price, Matt Moore, McClanahan last year. He's facing the Blue Jays. I think that really means we should temper expectations. I'm not even starting him just because of the matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it depends. Do you think he's not going to get the 2-start week this week? Is he? They'll probably stick with a 6-man, right? Because they've got 6 games this week.
Yep. So yeah, I looked at that. They have 6 games. They have a lot of young guys in that rotation. They're cruising into the playoffs. I'd have to think they stick, like you said, with the 6-man rotation.
Yeah, I mean, he was stretched out a little bit lately, and like you said, they're probably getting ready to gear him up for the playoffs. Although Price pitched in relief for the most part in the playoffs that year, but I don't think you can start him. Your best case scenario is like you get one fantastic start, and if you miss out on that, you can live with it. The better chance is next week because he'll probably get 1 start this week. Maybe he'd get 2 next week if he could. But yeah, I agree with you. Not because of performance, just because of the situation. I don't think I would roll with him.
Yep, he'll be a fun guy to look at again next year as well. Some final other news and notes. Joey Gallo left Saturday's game with neck tightness and didn't play Sunday. Kyle Tucker left Sunday's game with shoulder discomfort, and Eddie Rosario became the 4th player this season to hit for the cycle. He did so on just 5 pitches.
Yeah, is the cycle like that's a lot of cycles per year, right? Like I don't remember four people hitting it in 1 year. Seems like a lot.
It does sound like a lot. It's been a year like that of a lot of no-hitters, a lot of cycles.
And I want somebody in the chat, please look this up. I remember like 15 years ago, I was at a game or something like that, and it was the exact same numbers in Major League history of cycles and no-hitters. Somebody look up exactly where we are right now in the chat and put it in the chat for us, our little peanuts and cracker jacks. Get to me, sorry.
A lot of pitching standouts from the weekend. Steven Matz, 5 2/3, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts on Saturday against the Twins. I just wanted to know, it's been a nice season for him, a 3.84 ERA and over 140 innings. He had a 9.68 ERA for the Mets last year. So he hasn't been, this dominant fantasy pitcher by any means, but he's had a nice little season here.
What's funny to me is I picked him up for a 2-start week like eons ago. I remember he had like 2 really good matchups, and I picked him up for that week. And then I remember basically being like, this guy's not so bad. I'm just going to roll with him. And I've rolled with him since then. He had that 1 bad start against the Orioles. But you look at the earned runs allowed. Other than that, I mean, you look starting it since August, 0, 2, 0, 1, 1, 2, 1, then the 5 against Baltimore, and then 2 against Minnesota. I mean, he's had Baltimore, he's had Detroit, he's had Seattle, he's had Cleveland. Pretty good matchups overall, but still pretty awesome to see. And again, he's a good guy. Like, I'm glad he's mostly stayed healthy for the most part. But yeah, he just doesn't, he doesn't have the strikeout rate to really go crazy. Not, a strikeout per inning, but still very, very solid season for the guy, 3.84 ERA.
Another guy similar to Robbie Ray who is like doing it in the AL East, which we were noting was impressive.
I wonder whether Toronto's, pitching coaches are just kind of turning everybody around over there when you get there. Who knows?
2 of my guys who performed well this weekend. Shane McClanahan returned from the IL, 5 innings, 7 strikeouts on Sunday against the Tigers. Dan and I have both noted that we're in on him. But then Logan Gilbert is kind of back from the dead again. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 5 strikeouts against the Royals. I just wanted to note his past 4 starts, he has a 2.01 ERA. It kind of seemed like we were done with Gilbert there for a while, but he gets the Angels on Friday among pitchers with at least 100 innings. He ranks 17th in K minus walk percent. So that just means he's limiting walks and he's getting a good number of strikeouts. The hard hit data is still there a little bit, but he's close. He has like 2 of the 3 pieces of the FIP triangle. I would start him on Friday against the Angels, and again, someone to look at next year.
I'm in on him now. I mean, I never dropped him from a league that I had him in, but I had benched him, Tuma, because we had talked about like, yeah, this is really not going well. And they just sort of started rattling off dominant starts. I'm going to be all over Logan Gilbert next year. He is our friend, the Welsh, Chris Welsh. He was a huge Gilbert guy when he came up. He knows prospects almost as well as you do, Brendan. And he was all over Gilbert. And Gilbert is exactly what he said, a command guy. He doesn't, hurt himself with the walks. He's got plenty of strikeouts. He's a guy who is basically, I'm going to try to do like one of these 100% shares of in my leagues, because I just think that this is a monster waiting to be unleashed next year.
Love to hear that. Aaron Nola, 5 2/3, 4 hits, 1 run, 9 strikeouts. Look, it is what it is with Nola at this point. It has been underwhelming from a run prevention standpoint, but the strikeouts remain elite. I think you and I have beaten the Nola drum to death at this point. Up there, yes. It is, Mike Mayer.
There's Mayer, 334 cycles versus 314 no-hitters. That's surprising to me because of all like the no-hitters that we've got going on. We should close that gap within the next, 2 years or something like that, given how many no-hitters that we get. But yeah, it's interesting, I guess. But that's a fun trivia thing for you always to wonder about which has more cycles or no-hitters.
Some studs being studs. Max Scherzer, 7 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 7 strikeouts. He has a 0.78 ERA since being traded to the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani, 8 innings, 10 strikeouts on Sunday against the A's. He had 26 swings and misses. That is incredible. And then Max Fried, 7 innings, no runs, 5 strikeouts on Sunday against the Giants. Very quietly, Max Fried has 10 straight quality starts. It seems like he pitches at least 6 innings every time out.
Fried was a guy who I hadn't thought about almost at all until a close friend of mine was asking about like, hey, what do you think? And I was like, Max Fried, whatever. And he said, take a look at what he's done lately. Yeah, this is great. I mean, Fried was a guy who, again, we kind of thought maybe was outperforming his peripherals for, a little while. But this is great. Start him with confidence. And, I'll probably, again, not as much as Logan Gilbert, but I'll be in on him next year as well.
Rostering Max Fried has felt great this season, almost as great as getting a really nice groom and trim in under you, especially when you use the Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped. What makes this trimmer different than all others? The new trimmer allows you to customize your trim all over through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 through 4, and the optimized Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof, so you can groom in the shower and not have to worry about making a mess on the bathroom floor. Leading Off listeners can get 20% off and free shipping by using that code leading off at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Code leading off. Hitters to get through. Ryan Mountcastle hit his 30th homer of the season. Shout out Mike Mayer. Cedric Mullins sold 2 bases on Saturday. He now has 29 homers and 30 steals for the season. So it definitely seems like he's going to hit the 30-30 club. Is he going to be like a 3rd, 4th round pick next year?
It's really hard to argue that he won't be. I mean, Mullins is a guy who I have in a deeper league. He's awesome. You don't ever think about him. You just constantly see his stats accumulate. But I've always just kind of been like, I'm not going to get excited about Cedric Mullins. But how do you ignore a 30-30 season? And he's going to lead off probably for the Orioles again next year. I think he has to be, Tuma, just given how difficult it is to fill stolen bases and everything like that. So yeah, 3rd rounder is what strikes. Again, I can't wait till you and I are debating our football rankings, the football equivalent of what I've done with Tags and Yates, where we just yell at each other about where we have guys ranked. That's going to be me and you and Mayer coming into next year. But I think so, Tuma. 3rd rounder. I don't know how you keep him out of there. At least maybe a 2nd rounder if he's going to go 30-30. What the heck? Crazy.
Yeah, I think, everything he did this season would obviously support that. It'll just be about the regression. I want to note Gavin Lux had a 3-hit game on Sunday. Look, I've long forgotten about Gavin Lux, but he's playing left field every day with AJ Pollock on the IL. He's hitting 458 since he came back up. That's only 29 plate appearances. The Dodgers do have 3 games in Coors Field this weekend. And also about Coors, Brendan Rodgers hit 2 more road homers this weekend. He had 6 hits in Washington. 12 of his 14 homers have come on the road. He has an 864 OPS on the road versus 756 at home. That's weird, but obviously we still like him at Coors. And the Rockies play 6 home games. Lux and Rodgers, do either of them stand out to you, or both maybe?
Both, actually. Yeah, Rodgers should be rostered more. And I feel like we talked about him a couple of weeks ago. I feel like the reason he hasn't been is because he doesn't do anything exceptionally well, right? It's not like there's one thing where you're like, I need this or I need this. Let me go pick up Brendan Rodgers. It's just like he constantly produces, basically, and he has for like a month straight. He really should be rostered pretty much everywhere. And he is in all my leagues, so I don't know how he's so out there. I guess probably a lot of people tuned out already, but absolutely, I don't care about the fact that for some reason he's better on the road, as you said, like start him in Coors. And Lux, yeah, as long as they are not facing lefties, and I don't think they have lefties this week. I was looking up him earlier today. I think one lefty maybe in their games, but certainly at Coors, I think you roll with both these guys. Again, we have 2 weeks left, so you're obviously week to week at this point. I think both guys are guys you should be starting this week.
Quick note on matchups. The Rockies are home for 6 games. It's 3 against the Dodgers, 3 against the Giants. So all hitters from those teams should get priority. And then also the Orioles thing. The Red Sox hitters did great again this weekend because they were facing Baltimore pitching. This week, the Orioles face the Phillies for 3 games and then the Rangers for 4 games. So those are the teams to target. It's actually, Mayor was tweeting about this, I saw over the weekend. It's an extremely interesting schedule this week. The other thing I want to add is that the Indians play 9 games this week, which is insane. So unfortunately, they don't have many hitters to stream outside of maybe like Miles Straw or Ahmed Rosario, but that is just something to note when making lineups this week.
Yeah, it's always so annoying when that happens, right? Where you're like, look at this. I have nobody. It's like when the Rangers, have incredible matchups and you're like, I've got nothing. I've got nothing here. But yeah, Mayer's been great, by the way, about the matchup stuff. I bother him by texting him all the time. I'm starting Lamont Wade Jr. this week because again, they've got some games in Colorado, I believe this week. So you gotta play the matchups at this point, man, right? You gotta do what you can do. So I'm with you.
Yasmani Grandal homered on both Saturday and Sunday. He returned in late August. Since then, he's sitting 371 with 8 homers and 21 RBIs. I just want to use this as a segue to ask you, it's been a couple weeks now. Salvador Perez still is going nuts. Is he going to be your number 1 catcher next year?
I decline to answer. I don't know, Tuma. I really don't. This is just not something that should happen. Like, I have very difficult time with this when it should not be happening. Maybe I'm not. It's him or I don't know. I refuse to answer. He might not be. I'm not kidding. Like, maybe this is wrong. But it might still be real, Muto. Sorry.
Perez actually had a really bad weekend.
I knew it. I knew he'd stink eventually. Absolutely.
I used the Grandal note to segue into that. But yeah, I went on a whole Perez rant on Friday with Mayor because he has like 40 more RBIs than the next highest catcher.
It's nuts. It's just, it makes no sense. This doesn't happen when you are 31 years old and everything like that. Like, it just doesn't. I don't know what to say. So
the positional advantage, it's something we talk about in football a lot, with like Travis Kelce at tight end, but never in baseball. And that's kind of what it reminds me of. I wanted to note on Frank Schwindel, obviously he's been a popular player that we've been talking about. He has kept it up. I've started looking into him a little bit more and more and understanding his background. And yeah, I guess his thing has always been he's a contact hitter. Yeah. So that's why the K percent is so reasonable. Again, when both him and Patrick Wisdom were heating up in a big way, we said fade Wisdom more so because of his insane strikeout rate. And Schwindel is overperforming his expected stats, but I kind of think he's going to hang around as, just a serviceable major league player. Probably nothing ever similar to this, but it doesn't look like he's going to be just an enormous flash in the pan.
I currently have Schwindel on my bench in my finals in my dead league. So Mayor, expect 17 texts later today asking you to guide me in that decision, because he's like been a guy who I've been trying to get off of. I've been like, okay, I got the best of him. I'm done. And he just keeps going right now. So yeah, been very, very impressive.
He has the Adolis Garcia thing going where he's like crushing fastballs but doing horrible against breaking balls. There's the
You got
garage.
it every time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter when I podcast, doesn't matter. My wife is going to be opening that garage door every time.
Quickly, just a couple duds. Garrett Cole, 5 2/3, 10 hits, 7 runs on Sunday against the Indians. Came at a horrible time, but what are you going to do? Not start Garrett Cole? Of course, you're still going to start him. I just wanted to know, in case anyone is still even looking at them, both Casey Mize and Tariq Skubal have been limited to 3 innings or less in each of their past 3 starts. They are clearly limiting those guys' innings, so don't use them these last 2 weeks. We're moving on to the home run leaderboards.
Yes.
Here.
Okay, Joey P still leads with 33, but I am tied with Randy, who called JD Martinez on Sunday, and I called Yordan Alvarez over the weekend as well. Smalls is also up to 30 after calling Jared Kelnick. Goodness gracious, 1,193. Hopefully we can pass the 1,200 mark today, but Joey P leads. I'm in second with Randy at 32. Go Cards been on a heater at 31. Lawnmower Man 4.4. Smalls and Helpless Miami at 30. Derek from Texas, Akak, and D. Gordon Liddy, who slid a little bit, at 29. Turf Durgerson 28. Mayor at 27. Wonky at 26. Good to see her moving up again. Catvox at 24. And Raucous Tiger 23 and the Clown Prince at 23. This is going to go down to the wire. And again, you talked about the matchups, man. I mean, it's not fair. Harper gets the Orioles, and he's into perpetuity with Joey P. So whatever, we'll deal with that. But yeah, it's going to be a fight here till the end.
I was just going to say we'll get to your pick after DFS real quick, but we do have worlds colliding with the Phillies going up against the Orioles for the first 3 games. But DFS 7-game slate on Monday. Mondays are obviously always a little bit lighter. Who are you starting with at starting pitcher?
I mean, I think that it has to begin with Robbie Ray, who's just been fantastic and is going for the Cy Young. Now, you're going to pay for him in cash games going up against the Rays, $11,000 on FanDuel, 10-2 on DraftKings. Freddie Peralta also makes an intriguing option coming off a very solid start. Only 8,900 on FanDuel, 9,200 on DraftKings, so you could pay down. But he does go against the Cards, who are basically invincible at the moment. Framber Valdez, who was scratched last time, against the Angels, 9,300, 9,500. Sean Manaea against Seattle, obviously good matchup, 9,600 on FanDuel. So I'd rather pivot there to Freddie Peralta or somebody, and 8,900 on DraftKings. You can kind of live with that. But on FanDuel, I'm probably going to wind up either paying up for Robbie Ray or pivoting to Freddie Peralta, at least in cash.
This is Robbie Ray's moment. Cole struggled yesterday on Sunday, so if he has a dominant outing against the Rays tonight, that could be the Cy Young moment. Game stacks, I do kind of Mike could just honestly be making up names when I read these game stacks with the opposing pitchers, and I would never have any idea. But we have the Yankees going against AJ Alexy of the Rangers, and then we have the Brewers going against Jake Woodford of the Cardinals. Baseball is so funny in that sense. We follow it, in the 99th percentile of humans, and yet there are names that we still have no idea who they are. So again, the Yankees and the Brewers for your team stacks, but for some individual lineup builders, we have
Andrew McCutchen going up against John Means and the Orioles, of course, 3,000 on FanDuel, 3,500 on DraftKings. Eddie Rosario, fresh off his cycle against Mejia in Arizona, 2,600 on FanDuel, 2,500 on DraftKings. Josh Harrison been really hot going up against Seattle and Tyler Anderson, 2,900 and 4,400 on DraftKings. 4,400, it's a little too pricey, but on FanDuel, you can get away with it. Austin Hayes also been hot going up against Suarez from the Phillies, 2,900 on FanDuel and 3,200 on DraftKings.
There you have it. And your home run call of the night, the big moment we've been waiting for. Will Dan try to cancel out Bryce Harper for the next 3 days, or will he just try to outright beat Joe Pizzapia?
I think Mayer has it right. I've got to figure out a way to get ahead of Joe and then just call Harper for the remainder of the year just to cancel him out. I will go with that. Now Go Cards wants me to go with Ray. Okay, I am going to. I went back and forth about this. Part of me wanted to call Yordan Alvarez, but I am going to go with the Yankees against a non-real human named AJ Alexy, and I'm going to go with Stanton for my official home run call. Giancarlo Stanton, going yard. Yankee Stadium. Let's go.
There you have it. Giancarlo Stanton for the home run call of the night for the Yankees, who are playing meaningless games at this point because the Red Sox are running away with the wild card spot. And I will be at that home wild card game when we host it at Fenway Park, no matter how negative Mayor is in our group chat. It's time to go. There are fantasy baseball championships to win. Reach out to Dan and Mike and I and Joe on Twitter and in Discord with questions. Let us know how you're doing in our leagues. We really do love to hear that. Dan and I will be back tomorrow and every day this week.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, and happy Shane Baz Day.